From the AM/FM 24/7 radio network, broadcasting from AM and FM stations around the country. Welcome to the Small Business Administration award-winning School for Startups Radio, where we talk all things small business and entrepreneurship. Now, here is your host, the guy that believes anyone can be a successful entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is not about creativity, risk, or passion, Jim Beach.
And welcome back to School for Startups Radio. Again, thank you so much for being with us today. I am excited to introduce you to my next guest. His name is Mark Kohler. He is a lawyer, and you know we don't normally like to have those on the show because we just make too much fun of them. But he's been on the show before a couple of years ago. He did a great job. He's got some fantastic books out that I just love the names of, and he has his own radio show as well. One of his books is called Lawyers Are Liars. He also wrote a book called All the Things Your CPA Won't Tell You. And he has a new book out that sort of combines the two of those. It's called The Tax and Legal Playbook. You can find out more about it and get a copy at markjkohler, KOHLER.com. Mark, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Well, thanks so much for having me, and I certainly understand a good lawyer joke, so I know the feeling your listeners may have, but let me just say I'm also a CPA, so I love the accounting, tax-saving aspect. So if I have any redeeming quality, hopefully that makes up for me being a lawyer.
You call being a CPA a redeeming quality? That just means you're a boring liar.
There you go. Touche, my friend.
Anyway, I wouldn't have had you back, Mark, if I didn't enjoy you the first time, so I'm excited. You and I were just chatting on before we came online here, and you said S-Corps are a great way for an entrepreneur to go. I've always advised you should start with an LLC, run a couple of years until you get big enough to switch to an S-Corp. Why do you disagree with me?
Well, in certain instances, we're both right. It's very much the case that you can start out as an LLC and then make the S election down the road when the net income and the self-employment tax is killing you. However, that's not always the case when you're dealing with like a state like California, where the gross receipts tax on an LLC kicks in even before self-employment tax. So you may say, I don't have a lot of net income, so I'm not getting killed on self-employment tax, so I'm just going to do an LLC, but then the state gross receipts tax kills you. And also in certain other states, the filing fees for an LLC are higher. Think of Illinois or Texas. So in some states, we may say, hey, if you're doing ordinary income and you know you're going to make at least 30 or 40 grand, just bite the bullet, go straight to the S-Corp, buckle up, get going. In other instances, like you said, I think your advice is right on. So it depends on the state where you're at and what your expectations are for income.
Okay, here in Georgia where I live, I think it's $35 a year for an LLC. You just can't get cheaper than that. What about the income barrier, though? At what level of corporate income should I just go ahead and bite the bullet and become an S-Corp? You said 30,000. Is that the level? Because I'm not going to do a business that only makes $30,000, and I hope my listeners aren't either.
That's right. And so that's why going through the LLC and then figuring out the S-Corp later can be a pain in the rear. So again, that really is about the break-even point. Because here's the point. I don't want people to think, I'm biting the bullet and doing something bad getting an S-Corp. They're fantastic. They open the doors for additional tax strategy planning. They're audited 15 times less than a single-member LLC. You can start the solo 401k within the S-Corp. The S-Corp comes with a lot of benefits, so I don't want to make it sound like we're doing taking a major turn down the wrong path. But the net income is around $30,000, and what I mean by that is, once you're making $30K and you can do a salary dividend split in your S-Corp, and you're saving on self-employment tax, the savings outweighs the cost of the extra tax reporting for the S-Corp. Because the S-Corp, you got to do an extra tax return and the payroll planning. And so you're going to spend, even in Georgia, you're going to spend an extra $1,500 a year doing the S-Corp. So if you're going to do the S-Corp, we want to make sure we're at least saving that. And I would say, Jim, $30K net income, that's where we're at.
Wow. Okay. My wife has one of those silly little Amazon businesses where she buys stuff at wholesale and sells it on Amazon at retail. She made $60,000 in her first year, Mark, profit. It's an LLC right now. She's making a mistake then, isn't she?
She is, and there are some options retroactively with an LLC. Now, let me make this point. Now, this is very important to listeners. You got to put your thinking cap on here. See, if you called me up tomorrow and say, "Oh, I just made $60,000 in my Amazon internet business," I cannot go back in time and turn you into an S corp for the beginning of 2015. It's too late. I can make you an S corp right now in the middle of 2015, but I can't go back in time. The benefit of the LLC with your wife's situation is another little trick, is you can backdate an LLC into an S corp up to a year. So we can go back and make your wife's LLC an S, take an S election to 1/1/15, start the payroll process. And I'm just talking off the top of my head. Let's just say we did 50-50 salary split. That's $30,000 times 15%. We just saved $4,500 in one form, turning your wife into an S corp. Now, it's going to cost her $1,500 to do the paperwork, on the tax reporting. But will I spend $1,500 to save $45? Yeah. So, your wife's got time to save it this year.
All right. What about one of the strategies that I use too, that the company shouldn't make money in the first place, right? I'm going to, in December, spend every cent of money that I can, whatever tricks I can use to get it down to the point where the company just made no profit this year. It made $22 profit. What do you think about that? Is this stupid or is this a good idea?
Well, I think there's good and bad to that perspective. The good part here is we should be writing off all we can anyway. I'm totally with it. And Jim, we ought to do another show here in the next few months, if you can tolerate me having me come back, is talk maybe about the 5 top, and we'll have a couple today even, but some of the 5 top tax strategies people miss out on. And I like what you said about travel, dining, entertainment, home office, PDAs, laptops, my new Apple Watch, whatever it is. We need to be maximizing all those write-offs. I don't care if it's December. If your accountant isn't scraping the bottom of the bucket and telling you yes rather than no, you got the wrong accountant. So your perspective on being aggressive is wonderful. The con, I would say, with that attitude is we don't want to throw good money at bad. And I have those clients that in December, they'll go out and buy crap they don't even need just for the write-off. And that doesn't make sense either. And farmers are classic for this. So go buy the new backhoe or the new truck or the new combine or something, and they really, really don't need it. And we could put that money better to work in a rental property producing cash flow and write-offs rather than going out and buying something stupid for our business. So I think we got to be cautious.
All right. You've given me a lot to think about already, Mark. I'm going to have to read this book, damn it. I'm supposed to read fiction during the summer and, watch movies with lots of naked or nudity and explosions and read books about war heroes and stuff. But you're going to make me actually work this summer, aren't you?
Yeah, well, let me say this for everybody. This book, I try to make it easy to read. That's why my last book titled What Your CPA Isn't Telling You was a story. Folks, I know it sucks trying to learn about tax and asset protection strategies. So each little chapter has case studies and stories about celebrities and their screw-ups and little diagrams and charts and takeaway bullet points. So I really try to make it palatable. And you don't have to read it start to finish. You can say, oh, I need to focus on corporate credit, or I need to focus on my privacy planning, or how do I put my kids on payroll? And you can zoom in on that chapter, read what you need to, and then move on.
Right. I love that, the reference nature of it. That's really good. Let me ask you this about deductions. You sort of mentioned this before. I own a home-based business. My wife owns a separate home-based business. Can we do things like, say, she's using half of the house, which is pretty damn close to accurate for her business, and I'm using the other half of the house for my business, which is pretty damn close to accurate. We got crap everywhere, Mark. I have radio stuff here, and I have a video stuff in the other room, and we have Amazon stuff for my wife in the living room and the dining room. Right now, she has her desk and her computer in our bedroom. Our whole house should be a deduction, in my opinion. Can we do half the power for her and half the power for me, and half the cable for me and half the cable for her, and half the mortgage for me and half the mortgage for her? Or are we going to end up splitting a jail cell too?
Well, it depends.
My favorite lawyer answer. It depends.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? There's some, out there in Georgia, there's someone that I'm sure is going to know that this analogy. They're a pig farmer at heart, and remember, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. So the point we want to be careful with here is that we don't want to get too aggressive with home office. I love the home office deduction. It is awesome. We just don't want to go over the top. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, we're going to take as many expenses. And here's the cool part, Jim, you're like. And let me preface it with this. A lot of people are afraid of the home office deduction. They think, oh, it's a highly audited item. I shouldn't take it at all. No. You need to take the home office deduction. And especially with S Corps and LLCs, we can bury it in the returns even more easily. But what we want to do is still not draw attention to it. And this is where taking a lot of those expenses and putting some on your wife's return, some on your return, is going to further, and I hate to say this word, but I'm going to do it, disguise the deduction. It's not that you're not entitled to it, but why draw attention to it? Let's freaking take it ethically and honestly, but not raise a red flag. So you're still going to have some personal expenses. We can't write off 100% of the house, but let's get aggressive.
All right, 33 each for a total of 67. Can we do that?
Well, we're going to have to talk square footage, and
again, I can justify every damn room except the baby's room. But you know what? We have board meetings in there sometimes.
Well, you want to throw down here? I'll throw down a little something here. Now I'll get technical. See, there was a case last year in tax court with a tattoo artist in San Francisco. She took, I think it was around 68% deduction for her home office. She's like, people hang out in my front room. They go to my bathroom to wash their hair out or their skin my whole house is my tattoo parlor. I literally sleep on the futon where my customers stay. And she ended up in tax court and wanted to fight it, just like you're feeling tenaciously here that, hey, 66% of my house is business. And she lost. They ended up saying you can only deduct about 30 to 40%, which is still a pretty aggressive write-off for home. But the IRS has said, and this is our Congress and us as citizens have said, hey, you got to have a place to go to the bathroom, go to this kitchen, and sleep. And those spaces, unless they're exclusively business, you're not going to get to write them off. So even though your wife's storing crap in the kitchen cupboards, the kitchen's going to be off limits for a write-off. Anyway.
What about the pool, Mark? I got a really nice pool. Can I write? I entertain with it every day.
Hey,
let's move on. I know you love rental property. Let's talk about rental property for a second. If I have $10,000 extra dollars that I could throw down as a down payment, let's play that game. What is your strategy? I walk in and say, Mr. Kohler, Esquire, I have $10,000. I think I can get a down payment out of that. What should I do?
Well, first of all, I'll say this, and I know you've got followers around all over the country, but Georgia is a hotbed of wonderful rental property, and I know you've got a strong base of listeners there in Georgia. Everybody should be out looking for a rental. In my book and everything I've been teaching to my clients for the last 15 years is buy one rental property a year. Be out there looking. So this is a concept that I'm very, very passionate about. Now, the reasons, just briefly, we're going to save taxes. We're going to also create tax-free cash flow. We're going to build long-term equity. And it creates a business. Having a rental property is a business, so we open the door to a lot of deductions, including the home office. And I know, folks, rental properties can be work. They can be risk. But the returns can be significant. So you've got to, do a little bit of education. You've got to make sure you know what you're doing. Start testing the waters. So what do you do next? In my book, I go through 10 steps to buying your first rental property. What are those things? And so I love that you highlight this. And so without getting into the minutia, folks, read it. But I think the next thing you do, Jim, just start shopping, start building a spreadsheet, start crunching numbers. Does this rental work? And remember, people, you're not buying a rental you're going to live in. I don't care if it looks cute. One of the problems landlords do all the time is they over rehab. They think, we got to put granite countertops in. What? You're not going to live in there. This could be a freaking meth lab. Just get in there and make sure the numbers make sense. That's what we're looking for in a rental, something that makes sense on paper.
Now, if we have a meth lab also as a home-based business, can I then deduct the kitchen, Mark? Because that sounds like a winner to me there. Anyway, so I love your idea of buying one a year. You know, my wife and I have played the game. We have one now. When we got married, she moved in with me, and we turned her old home into a rental. And I think the mortgage there, I think there's like 9 years left on the mortgage there. She's 35, my wife, Mark. I was able to marry a much younger woman here, so I'm really proud of myself for that. In my 40s, I married a woman in her 20s. That's one of the things I'm the proudest of. If we get 10 rentals paid for by the time she's 65, that's her entire retirement portfolio, isn't it? I mean, that's $10,000 a month of tax-free, or is it tax-free? Anyway, it's $10,000 a month of income at 65. Am I doing the math right here, or do you like my little game?
I love your game, and I see this happen over and over again. And some of you listening here may be thinking, oh, I don't want to go down the rental property path. And I go, okay, fine. Tell me about what's your retirement plan? Social Security? Are you kidding me? Social Security is going to be your plan? Oh, no, you've got a company you're working for that's doing 100% matching in your 401k, and you're going to have $1 million in your 401k because that's what you're going to need for cash flow. Oh no, you're setting aside a ton of money each month in savings. You're not like the typical American that saves nothing every month. Folks, if you don't have a plan, making the goal to buy a rental property every year can be a part of and a big solution for your long-term retirement plan, because those rentals start creating tax-free cash flow. You've got depreciation and write-offs. And then like you said, 5, 10, 15 years from now, you've got 15 properties that are paying out monthly cash flow. You may have carry-forward losses. You can do 1031 exchanges. Oh, my gosh, the list just goes on and on, so that you can be living in a lower tax bracket and supplement your retirement with Social Security.
Do you get 20-year loans on your rentals? I know that that's a horrible thing to do, that you lose money as compared to a 50. The shorter the mortgage, the better off you are, right? Let's say that. What is the correct term length for a mortgage for a rental property, Mark? Not your primary residence, your rentals.
Well, there's two schools of thought out there.
So it depends. Damn you again. There we go again. Well, it depends.
Well, I'll say this. There's different schools of thought because everybody's a little different. And let's just look at the age factor for a minute. When I've got clients in their 30s and 40s, I want them using leverage as much as possible and making sure the property cash flows. I don't care about you paying off the rental quickly right now. I want you generating cash flow and getting into those properties so you can play the long-term appreciation game as well. Now, if you're in your 60s or 70s, what are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure that those rentals are being paid off so that I have even higher cash flow. So where you're at in your station of life is going to depend on the types of loans you're going to focus on. And I speak for a group in Honolulu I love. This is a great tax write-off you need to take advantage of, Jim. Get over there. Next time you're in Hawaii, make it a business trip. I opened an office over there myself. I didn't want to, but call me a giver. I just wanted to make sure my clients, get a write-off, every time they go to Hawaii. It's a pain for me to go over there and meet you, but I'll do it for you. So anyway, Sweep Strategies, sweep is in sweeping the floor with a broom. Sweep Strategies is a company that teaches just what you're talking. I don't know why I'm giving them a plug right here, but just like you were talking about, there's ways to pay down rentals in 5 or 10 years, let alone 20 or 25 or 30. And when you can pay down those rentals faster, it opens up the doors for buying more rentals. Oh, so I love where you're going with this. But again, where you're at in life, how much cash flow you need, how good your credit is, all plays a factor.
Would you ever borrow money against your primary residence to use as a down payment on a rental?
Yes, I would, if you're going to force me to say yes or no. Now, it depends, again, how old you are and your overall cash flow, and you're making sure we're not being too risk-taking. But if the stars align, why do people think, okay, I'll say it this way, Jim, why do we have to pay off our home and just have that $100,000 or $200,000 or more? I mean, people with a $500,000 home paid off, it's just sitting there. $500,000 doing nothing for you.
Yeah, but you
kidding me?
sleep better at night, Mark. At some point, I just want to sleep good, and
Yeah.
the fact that knowing that if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, that the home is paid for, my wife and the 4 kids don't have to worry about that, makes me just feel good. Wouldn't that just make you feel good, like you accomplished something as a provider for your family?
It can be deceptive, though, because you feel good, but then you've also got this land-rich, cash-poor situation, potentially, and there's a lot of people that have their home paid off, and they can't even make their, pay their bills or take a trip anywhere because they don't have any cash flow anywhere else. And so their home's paid for, but their monthly cash flow sucks. And also here, Jim, when you pay off that home, you just opened up a whole new world of asset protection problems. In certain states, you get in a car accident tomorrow. Let's say you're texting and driving tomorrow. You get in an accident, guess what? That home you have paid off, gone. They're starting to assess punitive damages to people in car accidents for texting and driving, and insurance companies do not pay on that. What are they going to go after? They're going to go after the equity in your home. So, again, a chapter in my tax and legal playbook is, what asset protection do you need, folks, if you do have your home paid off? Are you doing the things necessary to protect that home if you want to sleep well at night?
All right. You mentioned insurance. My father, Mark, is the wisest, most generous man on earth, and he gave my brother and I a whole bunch of paid up whole life insurance. Okay. My brother married a financial planner, and she's cashing all of that out and turning it into term. I'm like, dude, this is paid up insurance in the millions. I'm never going to cash it out. I love having that. Again, that security. Which one of us is right? It depends.
Well, I'm going to be very opinionated here, and I apologize for offending some out there. I, at my core, am a term insurance invest kind of guy. Whole life insurance can play a role in certain strategies and in certain people's financial situation. Hey, okay, I'll say it this way, Jim. Have you bought your rental this year? Have you maxed out your health savings account? Have you got your 401k pumping? Okay, you've done all that and you have some extra money to burn? Great, let's go play whole life because you're not getting tax.
But again, this is already paid for. This is paid up whole life policies that he is cashing in.
I hear you. I would, if you've got one-time premium or hopefully they're paid for and they're taking care of themselves, leave them alone. I agree. I will say that. I don't know if I want to cash in insurance to go buy rentals when the insurance is paid for. But that's a very rare instance. A lot of times,
that's very rare. I'm so lucky my father did that for us. We're the biggest gift of ever.
Exactly. Now, another 98% of the Americans out there are maybe talking to an insurance agent that's trying to talk them into whole life. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it may not be the right timing in your life. Have you got all of your other tax and legal planning dialed in? Have you bought your rental for the year? Have you done these other things? If you got extra money to burn, then let's do some whole life. Because you're not getting a tax write-off for it. And it's tax-deferred growth, and then you can borrow against it. You start doing the math, and you can't keep up with those premiums, you're going to lose that investment.
Right.
It's scary.
Mark, fantastic talking to you. You are a true fountain of knowledge, and you're not nearly as boring as my CPA or as lying as my lawyer, so I really respect you for that. How can we get a copy of the book, follow you on that social media thing, and listen to your radio show so we can get more of this great advice?
Oh, you bet. Thank you so much for having me, Jim. Well, first, my personal website is a great place to start. Anybody listening, markjkohler.com, and that's Kohler like your faucet or sink, Mark J. Kohler, KOHLER.com. My podcast, please get to iTunes and download it, Refresh Your Wealth. Refresh Your Wealth, over 150 podcasts on specific topics just like this. And you can always just Google or Amazon me or my books, and you'll track me down real quick. I'm all over the web. I want to be America's tax lawyer for the small business owner. Mark Kohler, I'm there for you. So
I love
learning
it.
And
Mark, great stuff. Thank you so much for being with us today. I also want to thank our friend Amilcar Ramon Chavaria for being with us today. I hear the background music playing, which means I am out of time. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back next time with more great School for Startups radio. Bye now. Go start a business and buy Mark's book to get the tax advice and make it an S Corp, I guess. I won't preach LLCs anymore, Mark. Anyway, got to go. Thanks a lot. Bye now.